Hello and welcome to part 2 of Damp Sam's Damp interview. We're back. Where did we leave it, Sam? We'd just left high school, I believe.
We'd left high school, and I'd just done me works experience at Lions, as they called it then, Manor Bakeries now. I think it's Manor Bakeries, and I was waiting for the placement to go to college, and they just told me that I could be a plasterer, and I didn't know what I said yeah, I'll be a plasterer, but I didn't know what a plasterer was. So obviously there were no Google back then, so I couldn't sort of go on there and search and find out what a plasterer did. So it was just a question.
So no idea what a plasterer were.
No, no.
You knew what plaster were, though, did you?
I don't think I did. I really just didn't know what it entailed, plastering. It was just, I had to make a decision on spot, and it was like, yeah, I'll be a plasterer. I just didn't want to have a year off, because they said you either take this up or you can wait a year and do bricklaying. And I just thought, I just want to get started and get a trade. I hate waiting around. I'm very impatient.
I'm quite aware.
I'm a bit impatient. I think that's one of my traits. I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one.
I think we started this podcast one Friday night, and it was by Sunday. I think we recorded first one. I think
that's it. Yeah, but so this was just a couple of weeks before college started, and they gave me details. I had to go to Barnsley College and go into workshop, the tells it on Old Mill Lane, and register. They knew I would come in, and we all had to go on Monday morning, and it was block release, so I was going to be at college right up to Christmas, from September up to Christmas, and then on site after Christmas. So
just before we get to that, why did you want to do a trade? I know we'd already touched on that you'd had enough at school. You'd had a bit of a bad experience. But
yeah.
Why would it a trade and not something else? You could have worked in a factory.
It weren't that. I worked at Lions, and I went going to the same place every day. I didn't like it, and I just thought, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I can't come to it. There were people in Lions, good people as well, that had been there 20, 30 years.
I've got relatives who spent a good 25 years.
And don't get me wrong, they enjoyed job. The new old people around them, and it was a good working environment. Good crack. Women were like sort of the tech piss out here, and as a young kid. And then you got older ones, and they did stuff together, went on Neat's Art and things like that, because you had your own line.
So a line being a shift?
Yeah, well, it were kind of split up into products. So
okay, so somebody on mince pies, somebody on Swiss rolls.
But each line sort of went length at factory. So it started off in mixing room,
yes,
up top, and then as you came down, there were tray washers, and then it got made, and then there were packaging, and so. And
were there competition between lines?
Not really, because I think each line were a different product.
Okay.
So
Swiss roll people didn't fall out with bun makers.
No, but I ended up on flans.
Phantom flan flinger.
Yeah, it was just a base.
I've seen them.
So yeah, for flan. So
something you'd never use if ever you've. I didn't think you used to get them in Christmas hampers, did you?
That's it, yeah. And I think I started off taking trays off of this rack and taking them off at washer and putting them into a like a slotted aluminium thing on wheels. And I just remember thinking how hot they were. They were boiling when they come off the thing. But by time I'd finished doing it,
asbestos fingers.
Yeah. So after a bit, you'd got used to it. I think they'd probably give you gloves nowadays, but but it was just getting them off.
Just
They
use your
were red
fingertips.
hot.
And your mum worked there, didn't she?
My mum worked in offices, and
Right, okay.
she'd got me job. She weren't like on factory floor. She worked in offices.
And what about your dad? What were your dad doing at that time?
My dad worked in pit, and he was a deputy.
Okay.
And
So a decent job then.
he worked his way up from being a miner, and he went through strikes in 70s, and he decided that he didn't want to have no money, and in pit, a deputy works through strikes because they're
Yes.
responsible for safety. So he went again. Pit. He must have asked, and they said they'll put him through his exams and everything. He went to Barnsley College, studied, and became a deputy. And when next strike happened, which was in 1984, a year after I had started working, he worked all the way through, and we were still getting paid and stuff. So it didn't really affect us as much, even though my dad used to give a lot of his money to miners that were.
Is that what he did? Did he have a tough time? Did he have a tough time with your dad, or were it understood at the time that
the miners understood about deputies because it's to do with it was to do with safety.
Because emotions ran quite pretty high around here.
But he won't go through a picket if the picketed.
He wouldn't go through.
No, if the picketed his pit, he wouldn't.
Stayed at home.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He didn't stay. He'd have to go, but then he'd turn around and come away because you can't force your son in.
No.
So he used to come home, and I think then other manager would probably have to go down to it. But they didn't picket that pit that much.
Right.
They were only
Which one were they at?
Alton Main.
Alton Main, which is quite way out of way.
Yeah, it were Alton Main. But so I never wanted to go down pit ever. Never had an inkling of going down pit.
No.
Just because my dad did it. And I was just like, I'm not doing what he's doing.
I think writing were on wall as well at that time, weren't it?
I think it was
things were starting to move.
I just didn't want to do what my dad did.
No.
We didn't see eye to eye all the time and most of the time, and I just went, I'm not going down pit, and a lot of my mates worked at pit, who I went out with, so. And they had good jobs.
I think it should be noted that anybody who's not sure, being a miner around that time were fairly, it didn't look like it, but you could earn some decent money, couldn't you?
It was really well paid.
Yeah.
It was really well paid, but it was really hard work for them.
I think they used to spend 5 nights a week in pub, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, my dad, but that was the thing about mines. My dad went out. So I can remember when we were young. Some days he'd do 7 days a week. He'd go out every night, and then he knocked it down to 5, and then he knocked it down to 3. But he went out every night, and that were like a stress thing. I think Mum kind of understood, but then they still used to have arguments.
Yeah.
He were in pool team. He were in darts team.
Similar to my dad, cricket, darts, football,
everything.
snooker.
He did everything revolved around pub, so he could go out.
Yeah. And there were different ones as well, weren't there? Yeah. The bit working men's club, the bit pub.
Yeah.
The bit 2 or 3 working men's clubs.
Well, he used to go at Mount Breton and Full House.
And then the bit sports clubs that were associated with working men's clubs as well. So
everybody that knew my dad, all my mates that knew him and worked at Alton Main, all they'd said to me is, "Rate lad, you're Bill.
Yeah,
rate lad. He's a rate lad, you're Bill." But
you not so much.
Yeah, I'm at home and I seeing all arguments and sharting and bawling and monk on and you know what I mean. We kind of got all moods, and then when they were out, they got all sort of good
best
bits.
Side,
they get all good bits.
I mean, it weren't a nice job. I couldn't imagine myself doing it for 12 hours a day.
No, so I just knew I didn't want to do that, and also being young, whether this were me having good foresight, I just knew I wanted to learn a trade. I'd got it in my head that if I think what it was, Kevin Loy, one of the lads in our class, he went on works experience with a painter and decorator. And when we all came back from works experience, I ended up at Birdwell Workshops, and I was talking to him, and them who'd been on works experience before, they'd all got like money or presents
Oh,
off,
yeah,
off a
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So he'd got like 60 quid. So
Yeah.
I'm rubbing my hand, and I went. He went early in year, and I went later in year, and I'm rubbing my hands, me thinking, oh, it's
I'm
going
gonna
to be
get
all
60
right.
quid.
Yeah, well, 60 or 40 quid or something. Anyway, end at works experience. I got on with everybody and all, and it were really good.
Tried your best.
Yeah, and they goes, oh, come on, we've got something for you here.
You
They give me-
you thought you were going to be getting
yeah,
good at record shop after work and
I thought
find some new clothes.
I thought I'm getting a rate wedge here. All miners are all
Yeah.
loaded. I opened this like little like a pay packet thing. And there were like a fiver in it. Oh, like, proper underwhelmed.
Seething.
And what it was though, to get there, I had to set off from our house at 6:30 on a morning.
Yeah.
So this is I was at school before this.
Yeah, yeah.
Set off at 6:30, catch bus into town, then catch bus from town up to Birdwell.
At your own expense.
I had to pay for. I mean, it were only 2 pence.
Yeah,
but so I'd get up there, and then when we finished, I think we finished at 4. Met my way, but I weren't getting it house till about 5:30, because sometimes the bus didn't come for a long time.
Yeah.
So they were long days. And again, like I said, I worked at Lions. Decided I didn't want to go to the same place every day, and I worked at Birdwell workshops, even though I was working with technicians, engineers. So I was going around with them, and they were like, when machines broke down or whatever, I was going around with them and helping them. And I still, even though it were a big place, just didn't want to go to the same place every day. And I just thought, if you have a trade, you're going to be doing something different every day.
Yeah.
Even if you're a brickie, you're going from site to site, you're going to be
Yeah,
outside. And that what thinking behind it, get a trade. And that with decorator as well, he paid him cash, and I just thought, you know what I mean? If you can get paid cash, that's even better.
Yeah.
So then I turns up at Barnsley College on this Monday, and our teacher or lecturer, they called him. We'd got 3, so we got a guy called Dale. He was like youngest lecturer, so he were only a few years older than me. I think he was about 6 year older, so he were quite young. And then you got Norman, who were Norman's like quite legendary. He's been there years.
Okay.
But then you'd got another guy who were even more legendary.
Norman looked up to him.
Called Des O'Connor. That was his name.
Norman looked up to Des O'Connor.
Yeah, but Des were retiring in 2 years' time. Now Des were he were a stocky old. I mean, I'm 55 now.
Yeah.
And I think Des were like 65, but he looked old. Do you know what I mean?
He looked old.
Yeah, and he was
Okay.
he was but he was stocky. But he looked like an old man, grey hair, and that. He used to wear a brown suit. But then he used to have an earring in, so like old boy with earring in.
Right. And what
So-
reason for that?
I've no idea, mate. I've no idea.
Just a bit strange.
But I can remember we used to have different classes. So Dale would take us in classroom doing learning plastering. So you'd get your handboard and trying to get it off your handboard and stuff. And then Norman would sometimes take us for theory on one of the days. And then I don't know whether this was first or second. What first year? And then Des O'Connor would take us also on one of things.
Did it ever get old, Des O'Connor?
No,
Because
but-
you're still calling him Des O'Connor.
Yeah, but thing is, he were crackers. I can remember once, because obviously being a young'un and just coming from school, I used to have this thing where I'd always lean back on my chair on 2 legs.
Yeah.
So I'd be like back and that, and just balancing on 2 legs. I think at some point I was destined to be in circus, but so I'm leaning back on these chairs, and it were after dinner. So I think it was about 3 o'clock and that, you get
So
that
lull.
crash. Yeah, you get
Yeah.
that crash after you've had your dinner.
Afternoon lull.
And I'm leaning, and he's like talking, and he's at front at classroom, and there's a big like wooden oak desk, and then there's these can you remember them? So this is like one of them plastic grey chairs,
Oh, yeah.
and desk were like a grey colour, but they were single ones.
Okay, I do remember. Steel frame.
with
And
Z,
Yeah.
with like Z thing, and they were in rows. So I'm about, I think I'm about on sixth row back, and there's all lads in front of us because they were in like fours. So, and then Des is at this oak desk stood up, and he's sort of teaching, and he's telling this story about so and so, and I'm leant back on my chair,
Yeah.
on these two legs swinging, just probably looking round at stuff.
Half asleep.
Yeah, I weren't really concentrating. And then next thing, he shoved first desk, and he started shoving and all desks started coming towards me,
Screeching on floor with it.
yeah, and he knocked me straight off me chair. I went backwards, brave me, I don't think,
Oh yeah.
just because I've been swinging on my
It's a
chair.
nice bit of concussion.
Yeah, and then he
And
says,
what did he say anything?
he just says, don't. He said, oh, something like pay attention or stop swinging on your chair and that, or that'll teach you. But we were laughing, but but I just weren't. I weren't looking. My heart was just pounding out my chest.
Another one.
when he'd done it.
PTSD.
I know that's another thing, but there were, we had a rates at the lads. So there was a kid called Darren, a black lad called Darren, who'd come up from. He were a year younger than us, and all. He were 15. I think he'd been a bad un and been sent up from London. He was a West Ham fan, and he was stopping at his cousins who had a dog place at Brearley. I think it's still there, kennels at Brearley. Nick, kid called Nick Joyner, Zach, Dave Coop, Spider, kid called Spider, who I still see now. So there were a decent class of us, and what we used to do is, when we had his breaks, we'd always go up to Top College. So
Huddersfield Road or
no,
Old Mill Lane?
It was Old College before it was done.
Old Technical.
Yeah, and dinner hall were like in bottom bit. So,
Yes.
so we'd got his own like canteen down at thing, but there were no shop around. So we used to go up to meals were subsidised up top, so we'd go up there for his dinner. And
Yeah.
but we just used to spend ages, and go back late and
Yeah. Covered in plaster dust.
yeah. So we'd have all stuff on and that. But they were long days. But we ended up learning, and like I said, and we all ended up passing as exams. But so after Christmas, we was I went out, got on bus to go up to SM Halls. This is who my first site job was.
So is this a work placement through college, or is it?
Yeah, it was.
So college had sorted this one out for you.
Yeah, so
you'd done what, 3 months,
yeah, so we'd done 3 months in
and
college.
then they sent you out into the world.
And they sent us out, so I had to be up there at again. I had to be there for 7:30. So
How many days a week were this? Were this 5 days a week, or?
yeah, 5 days a week.
Okay.
So I remember the first day, I got on bus near ours, got Cuddiff bus, and got off at Villages and walked down to where Cuddiff Builders were, which is now an housing estate, and it was just down past Gents factory, and bear in mind this is their first day back after Christmas as well.
Yep.
So
January 3rd, January 2nd, something
Yeah.
like that.
so it's a proper
Bad moods all round.
No, there were quite a bit of a buzz actually, so there were 3 of us starting. So there were Mark Norton, who were going to be joiner. I'd been to school with Mark, and junior school with Mark, and then a kid called Neil, big tall lad who were a bricklayer. I don't know if I told you the story about we went to Open Pagnell. I might tell you later, but I think that's one of the stories for when we do it with the show. But basically, they tried making him quickly. They tried making him. Well, they did. Day before I'd not been there. They fetched a dress to work, and they put him. They made him wear a dress when he got out at van.
Why is that?
When they dropped him off.
Just like initiation.
Just.
Do as you told your apprentice. Yeah.
But he was a big lad. He was big lad, and he was a bit. You get some lads who were. I did describe myself as quite streetwise, whereas Neil were a bit more. if they'd have tried to send me for a
Left-handed paintbrush.
I'd have known straight away. I never got that, but but Neil, they had him doing all sorts like that, and he worked with brickies. And
I'd have been fine with me. I'd have gone to, sending me for stripy paint and left-handed paintbrush. I'd have been, well, that's fine. Then I'd have been gone for 2 hours. So see you later.
Yeah. So apparently, I mean, I weren't there, but they'd made him, they'd put him this dress on somehow and thrown him out at van like a fair bit away from their house for him to walk. Anyway, so the. I'm just thinking he definitely wanted to. So then next day we all got in van and we were coming back home and they'd been saying all day we're going to get you to wear this dress again and all this, and there was a joiner called Dennis who was a year above us. He was in second year, and he was stood, and we were all sat in van, and there was like a side door to the van, and Neil sat halfway down van, and Dennis has sat near the door, and when we pulled up near his house, Pete Ollerton goes, "Go on, get dressed then." And as soon as they opened the door, Neil made a bolt for the door. So he dove for the door like that. And Dennis tried grabbing hold of him to keep, to stop him from going out. Well, Neil just started windmilling him and just knocked him all over.
Did he?
Just catching him like loads of punches in the face.
So I'd had enough.
Oh yeah, and it just smashed Dennis to bits. And to be fair, Dennis were a quiet kid.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to stop him, because they'd said stop him, and Neil just smashed him. But he were like, he were a proper big lad, and so that was one of the things. But
so did that put paid for it for you then? What it sort of
because this was nearly a year into this when it's summertime. This is when we'd been there a year, so everybody kind of knew each other.
It sounds like he'd had it for a while.
Oh yeah. Well, these are the same ones that on that other podcast that pulled scaffold over with truck. Yeah. So like I said, they just were. It were just different times, but we. So I pulled up, and then all they were talking about was this. They'd had their Christmas do had been at Rebecca's neat club.
Okay.
And they'd had a joint do with gents. So all they're going on about this do, which gents were just up road from where Yard were. So all they kept going on about that. So then I got put with old plaster called Brian. Said, "Oh, you go with Brian and Neil." So they put me with Neil, and I kind of got on with Neil like that straight away. He was funny, witty, hard as nails, could fight. You know what I mean? I looked up to him because he got a very smart car and all. But he
were it same age as you, were he?
No, he was about 3 years older than me.
Right.
But he'd kind of got a young family and all, so he'd kind of moved in with their lass and
really,
got
so
a
he'd
young
retrained
kid.
and
no, he'd always been a plasterer,
right.
For alls, but he were good. He'd been taught by Bry, and to this day he's one of the cleanest plasterers that I know. His tools are immaculate and he's organised. He's just really good. But then Brian, well, like a proper old school. Brian was just like an old plasterer. His son's reporter, Brian Walker. His son's Graham, who was reporter at Sheffield Star and Chronicle for a bit. And Graham had like his handboard, were just a solid piece of wood. They're about that thick.
Heavy.
And he'd made it his son and
2 inches thick.
And then handle and all, just heavy as old.
Made out of oak.
And then so when he got like sand and cement on it, it just his forearms were massive, Brian. But again, Brian had probably been about as old as what I am. Might have even been a bit younger, 50 or 50, probably 55. But he looked about 80.
Well, there is a thing. I mean, so for them that's not seen video, Sam's got a pair of, they Adidas. I did have shorts on today. They look a bit like bloody hot pants. I'm
The
not gonna spend
Lonsdale, mate.
not too
Our sonny
much.
got me these
Yeah.
for Father's Day.
Hoodie on and white t-shirt on. And I think if you'd have gone back to... How old are you now, Sam? 52?
55.
55. So I think if we go back to 80s, I'd expect you with a pair of slacks and a shirt,
Yeah.
would it? And maybe a flat cap.
But no,
Glasses.
but back then as well, you went to work in your old clothes. There were no workwear.
Yeah.
There were no like you went and bought a pair of work trousers with knee
Pair of
pads in.
Dickies.
Or t-shirts with branded t-shirts or hoodies like what everybody wears now. Basically, you wore clothes that you wore your old clothes. So this is why you had like Irish navvies and stuff that used to work on roads. They used to have suits on because it was stuff that they'd worn and
Past
just
Sunday
old
best.
yeah, and trainers. I'm no like steel toe cap boots. I went in trainers.
To be fair, you still see people with trainers these days who should know better.
Well, yeah, but so this is what I've turned up in, like my old clothes, and I got put with Neil and Brian, and what we used to do is, or what they did was, coal woodwork, but Mick Hall had bought, one of the first people to get into doing old people's homes.
Who's Mick Hall?
He owned Cuddiff Builders Hall. I think they changed it. They were Cuddiff Builders, and they changed the name to Halls. I think it was.
So your boss essentially, your boss of bosses.
No, he was owner. So
He was owner.
Yeah, he
never got involved.
No,
So.
but he'd got a coalwood contract, so they could do. You know what I mean? They'd have people come and they'd get work regular, so that it'd be like subsidence. So they had to go some houses they had to probably take down and rebuild.
Yeah.
But a lot of it were patching and stuff. So there were plenty of work, absolutely loads of work. But because they were doing these nursing homes, because government were paying grants, and this was money maker, so you got grants for everything. So them with any brains were building nursing homes, and he built that one. He was building that one next to Metrodome.
Okay.
So if you go up to Metrodome, and just as you turn in,
Metrodome being a leisure centre in Barnsley.
Yeah, in Barnsley. Just as you turn in, you'll see that there's a big white house, and then there's some chalets, isn't there?
There is.
So they were doing them.
They look a little bit like holiday homes, don't they?
Yeah, but they were where all old people were
Like
when we
Butlins.
first did it. Yeah, so I pulls up, and there's a scaffold a tower scaffold upside this big building, and they were rendering side. So first job that I get is getting sand and cement in a bucket on my shoulder, having to go up this tower scaffold.
Really?
I've never been up a ladder in my life.
So they were mixing it up there, were they?
They were mixing it on ground, and then
you were carrying
rendering.
buckets.
Yeah, so
it were wet.
So they showed me. Yeah, so they showed me how to carry it bucket.
Yeah.
And I'm going up ladder a bit at a time. Ladder was just
yeah.
like rubber.
Were it even tied on?
No, and tower scaffold weren't. And tower scaffold were moving about, and I'm like,
so this
absolutely.
is sort of 3rd of January, is it?
Yeah.
It's, so just for context, it's at top of a big hill as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but they've got a labourer called Andy, who was a biggest lad, who was a year younger than Neil. And Neil had gone inside plastering, and he'd left me with this Andy mixing render. When I come out, like, Neil went crackers because I shouldn't have been going up ladder. It's
so
Andy.
who put you onto this then? This Andy lad, were it?
No, they'd just tell me to go with him. So I think I'd turned up at whatever time, and then they'd say, "Oh, go with them." And Bri were already there, and he was sat on top of scaffold, and he were putting it on, like troweling it on. But we were having to take it up and then tip it onto a spot board.
Yeah,
on top
so
of
he
scaffold.
could just carry on.
Yeah, but what Neil wanted me to do was just duck mix.
Yeah.
So
and labour
tell me so many shovels of this, and for him to take it up. So that was first day. Second day, they put us inside, and they were because I'd come from college. They said, "Oh, just go with plasters," and they were like smallish rooms. So So Neil was skimming in big room, and I think he'd gone somewhere for a bit, and this Andy had said to me, "Oh yeah, you start putting this on," and they were like a little ceiling. I'd never done a ceiling in my life,
Yeah.
and I started trying to get get it off my handboard and put it on thing. Well, all over, it just went everywhere. And then Neil come back and again he went balmy with this Andy like. And I think this Andy were a bit slow, and he was just didn't think. And he was saying, he says like, I should have just been mixing, not doing a ceiling of it that I'd never done before.
Yeah.
So so that was my start to thing.
How were you feeling at this time? Were you a bit worried or?
Just excited. I think.
So it didn't put you off.
No, it was good being. You were outside.
You felt like you were
everything
working.
one new. Days were going, even though they were long days were going quick because it were new. And then I kind of ended up with Neil more than anybody. So I were in car with him, van with him all the time, and we just got on really well. And every day I just used to be absolutely pissing myself and laughing. It's just making me roll with laughing all the time. You know what I mean? It was brilliant. And I learnt a lot just in that first year.
So how long were you on this at Cudworth for? Were that a year's?
Yeah. So this
And you were going back to college, what, one day a week?
no, it was block release. So we went.
Right. Okay.
I were at college while Christmas, and then just after Christmas, I had to go back to college. Then while I think for 2 months, or it might have been 3 months, and then back to Alls, and then back to college to finish up. I think it was a day release then the end. And then obviously past first year, and then it were back out on site, and then so we're up at Alton Pagnell then, and they were doing these barn conversions, so we ended up there nearly all the time. And then miners' strike hit.
Did kick in.
And soon as miners' strike kicked in, they just says we can't keep you on. So I got let go, and
So you were full time, were you, with them at that time?
yeah, well, on a scheme, but but scheme were I think it were only for a year, but I expected to get set on after that year.
Which were quite common, weren't it?
Yeah,
back then?
and they just said no because of uncertainty at future. So I didn't get set on.
Last in, first out type of job.
And Mark Norton didn't get set on, but they kept Neil on with brickies. So I think they're still building stuff.
Well, it would be that bloke whose teeth he knocked out, probably retired after.
So then I got a decision to make. What do I do? But
Did you have a break in between then? So, or were you just, you knew that
no,
it was coming to an end?
as soon as they finished with me.
So you were at home then, were you?
It was September time.
Okay, so you'd have
then-
been expected to be.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
So then I kind of got back in touch with college, and they said, well, you can come back to college day release, and I got that for free because I was unemployed basically then.
Yeah.
So they set me on at college, and I said I'm definitely going to do my second year, and then I'd got in my head, I said I'm going to do my third year as well, no matter what, and I'm just going to have to try and learn to plaster my sen. And I'd already made a few contacts. There were a kid called Harry Clark who started asking me to render up his damp proofs. So this is when I first come in contact with damp. Damp systems and stuff. Even though they weren't done correctly, I could tell they weren't being done correctly because it was an high pressure system, and they used to have they had this kid who were doing drilling and injecting, and I've mentioned it a few times. You drill 2 holes into a brick, and then you put this high pressure. They're like rods what you put in, so you've got like about 6 of these rods.
Yeah.
That are hooked up to a compressor, and liquid gets pumped in at high pressure. And what Harry used to say to they called him Col, what labourer, like he was an 8 state and all. So he says when he started pumping it in, you could see brick getting darker, front circle, and then moving further out, further out, further out, as if like you put a drop on a blotting paper.
Yeah.
And he says, soon as they connect up and it makes like a figure of 8, then move on to the next brick.
Yeah.
And in my head, I used to think, well, it's not. Surely you've got to fill alt brick.
It's not a level. It's not a level.
Yeah, you've got to fill alt brick. That's the idea, because what happens is you fill all cells in brick, or like cavities in brick, and with this liquid, it was silicon back then, and then it just used to set solid.
Yeah.
So it formed a barrier all the way around, and that were your damp course. So silicon were your carrier, which took your damp proofing stuff in, and I just could see that it weren't being done right, but it weren't my problem.
No.
But and then I were mixing sand and cement as well, so they showed me how to mix sand and cement because I could plaster.
Yeah.
They'd just say, right, you want 4 shovels of sand and 1 shovel of cement, and this what thing into the mixer. And then with waterproofer that we had to put in, it just used to tip it, let a couple of glugs
Random.
into water. Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yeah, just do that much, and that was it. So it was like, it just I just knew it weren't being done right. But what they used to say, we were that expensive. So it's stuff's that expensive. We don't want to be wasting.
Yeah.
So, and that was it. So I used to render them up. And then skim them next day. They'd knock it off.
And how did you get this? How did you get this job? How did you get in touch with this guy?
Because when I was 16, I went on my first holiday abroad.
And where were it?
To Arundel in Benidorm, and I went with Oakleaf pub.
Okay.
In Barnsley, which is ironic because I ended up playing football for Oakleaf later on, and ended up making an appearance at Oakwell in a cup final. But they used to have a trip each year after season, so it'd be round about either October or early doors April, because it was cheaper.
So was this 1983 or 84? Were it?
This had been 83.
So Benidorm.
No, sorry, 84.
This will have been when foreign holidays were just coming to the fore, weren't it?
Yeah.
Benidorm was a place to be, weren't it, back then?
Yeah, well, this was Arundel, so it's Mallorca, so it's like.
Oh right, okay.
So it's you've got Palma, and it's near.
Into
It was near
Palma.
there, but back then it was just a shit oil. It was now Palma is just like, it's classy as old.
Yeah.
I've been through it, but back then Arundel, all gypsies lived there, and it was just it was still nice. It was nice, do you know what I mean? But it weren't Benidorm, and it were a lesser resort. It was like up and coming, I think.
Yeah, underdeveloped.
Yeah, and so they took a full bus from Oakleaf.
So it were a flight. It were a ferry.
No, it was a flight, but the 52ers went. So
Yeah.
full bus to airport, and then everybody got on flight. So and this is the first time I've flown.
Just you on your own, were you?
No, well, we Johnny Gray, who one of my best mates at the time, Johnny Gray, I knocked about with him, and he just said, do you want to come? Our Jackie's going, and this. So then I met like all these other people. So Jeffers is I knew Mark Jeffers who went to. He was a couple of years older than me at school. I think they boozed in there, and Shawnee Boy, his brother. And through being on bus, I kind of met Harry Clark. So John knew Harry, and then there were some other characters and stuff who were there. And so that when I got talking to Harry, he'd have been about 5 years older than me. Again, just had me in stitches all the time. It was just funny as old. I just remember sat on the beach, and we're all talking, just sat round on the beach, and I'm watching him as he's talking, and we're telling this story, and it and I seen this fly going around his face, and as he opened his mouth, he breathed in, stuck down back of his throat.
Really
And
really choked?
yeah, and then he was like throwing up like throwing up into the sand. But it was because I'd seen it going around his eyes and that, and it was right in, he'd got everybody's attention telling this story, and then as he breathed in, he went straight down back of his throat, like. But and obviously I'm absolutely just tears coming out my eyes.
Death by blue bottle.
Yeah, but this is what it was like. So we all sat around the hotel, and this I think it were a local or gypsy or whatever. You could see him. We just saw everybody set off running. All them who we were on trip with, like running through all what they call it, sunbeds and everything.
Oh yeah.
And he'd snatched somebody's bag and set off running, but obviously them from town, like all these, just they caught him straight away.
Did they?
Yeah, just caught him straight away. And that were Harry. I mean, Harry, he could handle this then, like he were a hard kid. God bless his soul, he's dead now, like. He so he were like a Dell boy, Harry. So he'd buy and sell everything. He had a roofing company, but for some reason, and I still don't get this, our roofers end up damp proofing. There's quite a few around here, roofers and damp proofing. The only thing I think is it sounds the same.
Well, rain. To keep rain off your head.
Yeah, but
keep rain out of your building.
That's outside, but this is like. It's inside a bit. I don't know. I didn't get connection. I just don't get it.
And you still don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. But yeah. So then I was doing plastering for him, and then I was doing rendering as well. So I was getting a bit of practice then, but it was only every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then I did because I needed work. I did a bit of roofing with Harry and all, going up. After another carrying tiles.
And how did you find that? Because I think it's well known amongst us that you're not that good with heights, are you?
Terrible, but I needed money, and I had to. There's a certain way to carry tiles, and these were like they were like a pan tile. You know them that's like that. That's
a wave.
Yeah, like a wavy tile. And I mean, this was on site training. So it turns up this day. We're at Kendry, this house, and they showed me. I had to pile them up floor to start with. You pile them like
you get them in your sets.
Yeah,
yeah,
and then you get your arm underneath, and then you have to lift them all up.
In one go.
Yeah, and then I had to. We were doing 6 at a time. Bear in mind, I'm like probably
10 stone wet through.
Yeah,
yeah,
and so climbing up ladders, and then getting off at ladder onto the roof, and then walking up roof, and then putting them down. And that month that I was doing that, I just knew I didn't want to be a roofer either.
Never going to be a roofer.
So so I started doing that for him, and then I had loads of different like subbies that I went with. I used to go with Bry on a Saturday. Sometimes I'd go with Neil on a Saturday. I was just trying to get this experience for plastering, and then in my second year. At Christmas, so this is 3 months later, there were a job advertised at Roger Pearson's, they called it, at Birdwell, and it were a fibrous plasterer's shop.
Okay.
And it were advertised in Independent and Chronicle, and I phoned them up, asked if I could go for an interview.
Yeah.
And they went up, and
you go in a suit.
I can't remember, mate. I honestly can't remember. But I'll have gone dressed smart, and it had just been took over by Rainfords. Have you heard of Rainfords?
No.
Vic Rainford. Well, Vic Rainford were a multimillionaire. His net worth at that time was £3 million, which were quite a bit of money for a businessman.
Yeah.
So Vic Rainford had just took it over, and so they said I went for interview. A month, I think it was November before Christmas, and they said we'll fetch you on trial. And there were 2 owners that went for trial for job. I didn't know. I only found out when I got working there. And there were me and a kid called Roger French. Now Roger French is a teacher at college at Minute, and Roger I think Roger were a year older than me, or a couple of years older than me. So we both got there on trial, and I loved it. It was brilliant. There were a great set of lads, but again, it was like a factory environment. So when you went in, it was
Same job every day.
yeah. So well, not so much same job. I could have worked there. It was warm inside because they used to have kilns for drying plaster and stuff like that. And it was interesting making moulds and everything like that. You know, getting plaster of Paris and stuff.
So what were you doing? What were you making?
Like cornices and things.
Okay.
So you make them on a mould or like ceiling roses.
So that were there so it were manufacturing them basically.
Yeah, they had a shop. They had a shop at front, and then they made them at back, but also the sold them as well.
Okay.
So they had brooches and stuff. So we're doing that.
I always thought they were machine.
No. They're made by hand.
So you had moulds and you.
Yeah, and also they fitted these moulds in like, you know, stately homes and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. I got on. I got on with all lads who I called Manny, who I got on with, and we all went out to Wakey before Christmas on like a Christmas do.
That's Wakefield, next city over, nearest city.
Went to Pussycats. That was like a neat club.
No idea what that is. Okay.
It was rugby club is it what? It was a neat club there.
All right.
So went there, had a great laugh, and I really enjoyed it. And the day before Christmas, they were having a drink. So all staff were going to this pub, and everything were going to be free, food, everything, all free. Bear in mind, I'm like 18, you know, just nearly 19, and I weren't really a big drinker. And one of the blokes who worked there were Jack Charlton and Bobby Charlton's brother, right? Now, their brother, I'm related to them. So my granddad is Sissy Charlton's cousin.
Okay.
So Sissy Charlton's Bobby and Jack's
brother,
mum.
Okay.
I bet they'd got this other brother who nobody knew.
Yeah,
but
it's news.
But he was salesman up there.
Okay.
And it's,
Jack Charlton used to live in Barnsley, didn't he?
But it's weird. So I got a lift to this pub, which were at Flockton. I think it was called George and Dragon at Flockton.
Okay.
So
it's still there, that.
Yeah, I think it's called a different name now. But he lived over that way. This Vic Rainford apparently. That he boozed in there.
It's a nice area.
So we went in and he'd put this spread on. Never seen out like it. Pheasant,
George and Dragon, is it?
Pheasant, everything. You know what I mean? Pork pies, just everything. All you wanted from behind bar, free.
It's a country pub, isn't it?
Yeah. So I like got I think I was drinking lager then, a pint of lager, and then they were getting whiskey chasers and
top
all.
shelfers.
Oh mate,
yeah.
And I can remember just having something to eat and all that, and then at time, I think I'd ended up. I don't know whether it were when I was going home, or I ended up talking to Vic Rainford. He come over and he's like, "Hey, are you all right?" And of course I'm pissed up and I'm
got a bit of Dutch courage down you.
Well, I just got talking to him and he's saying, "Oh, all right then." So you know what do you want to do? And I'm saying, well, so my mouth starts running off. I'm going, yes, I want to. You know, when I've worked here a bit, I want to learn how to do it and that, and then in future, I wanted to set my own company up.
I want to undercut you.
But I'm thinking I'm showing ambition. I'm showing that I'm wanting to. And obviously I'm drunk, so I'm saying all this, and then I think this. He drove. I think he drove us back to Barnsley because he didn't think he was driving this, drinking this.
It was 1980s. He might have been.
Probably did.
In fashion,
so
then, weren't it?
We gets dropped off in thing. I'm going home and I was plastered and I ended up going straight to bed because, it was at 3:00. So booze was shut at 3, didn't they? So it was 12 while 3 that we had spread on.
Well, it was Sunday, was it?
No, it were a Friday.
A Friday.
Yeah, it was last day.
Oh, it used to be quite
Ah,
traditional. Finish half day,
Yeah.
and then
so
go for a drink after.
so anyway, I goes home and that, and enjoys me Christmas.
Yeah.
January comes. No, it what week between Christmas and New Year, and I'd done some overtime as well, so I'd got like a bit of money and that, and I'd working a week in hand. They paid me. I want like a proper wage and everything,
Yeah.
so like proper man's wage, and then we gets a letter from through post.
Yeah.
Like, what's this? Opens it up, and it was from Rainford's.
Secretary or
Thank you for coming, blah 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 blah. Thank you for your month's trial. We no longer require your services, and I were absolutely gutted, mate.
And do you think that was because of what you said?
I always think that it's got to have been because it might not have been.
There's a possibility it might not have been.
But
it's,
that's always rung in my head.
Of course it has.
That's why I got that. But it's just one of them things. When I think back, I just know that I probably if I would have started working in the mind you, I'm saying that because I'm ambitious. I probably would have ended up opening my own place, and I'd have made best of what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd have liked to have done it, and it did learn me a lot. So, but I carried on going to college.
Another feather.
Yeah, I carried on going to college, and and I carried on just working for different companies. I got a job with a company called Thomas Nettleton and Son after this, who were doing site work. So Bod, one of lads who were at college with me, he worked for them as well. And again, I got working with them, but they were putting like browning on, you know.
Okay.
It was it were brand new houses, and it were just putting backing plaster on and then skimming them and stuff. And we were like mixing browning in baths.
Shoveling, yeah.
Like massive. There used to be massive bags back then. They were like 50 kg.
So for uninitiated, Sam, what's browning?
Browning's backing plaster. It's a lightweight backing plaster, gypsum based, and they don't do it now. I think it's hardwall. What's now? If you imagine size at bags now, they're 25 kg.
Okay.
Because I think it just in late 80s there were a thing passed that for health and safety that they had to make bags smaller for these people that couldn't pick a full bag up.
25 kilograms, decent weight.
But working for Thomas Nettleson's, they just did site work. So we'd go to we were working on sites in Huddersfield. So we'd drive to this site, and I just used to loading up. So lorry had come.
Yeah.
We'd have to get all plaster off at back, plasterboards, and then we'd have to load house up. So there'd be a batting that you walked up. So you got bags of browning, or 50 kg, and
So
bag
twice size of a bag these days.
No, but bag were like a small coffin.
Oh, so it were long and not.
Yeah, it were long, wide, and it was just bag were about as long as you see that tabletop there, which is about what? It's about a foot and a half.
So we're talking a foot and a half by probably 5.5 foot, maybe.
Yeah, so
4.5, 5.
So
five
I'd say it's
not 5.5. About 5 foot, maybe.
I'd say it was just short of that.
No, it's not. It's
And that's how big
4.5
it was,
foot.
and then about that thick. Because when you used to put it on your shoulder, it used to like go like that because it was solid.
So we're talking about a foot and a half by about 4 feet.
Yeah, it's not far off that. Yeah. And then bags of finish, they were 50 kg, same as bags of cement used to be.
So not ergonomic.
No, plasterboards were in double clips.
What does that mean?
Were in a clip. So it's two boards together, and there were a tape down either end that bound them both together. So if you and there were like 8x4s, what we called 8x4s, which is 2400 mil by
2.4 meters by
120 by 4 foot 120. Is it 120 or 18?
Might be 1.2. It'd be 1200, would it?
Yeah, by 1200. So they were double, and then and if you had like 12.5s, which were like 1/8 inch boards, they were heavy. So you need to carry these clips on your own.
So you were basically just a odd carrier for.
It was just a nightmare because you were just in and out,
Yeah,
in and out. And then
yeah.
even if you had to take them upstairs, then so you had to get them up into the house, then up into the top bit. And I used to drive. Because when you had to go there, we'd meet at Darton at his house, and then I used to get in back of a van, and then lay down in back of the van, petrol fumes and that. And then when we got there, we'd have to just start loading art.
Getting bounced about in back at van.
Yeah, and then and these guys, a lot of them were on price work, so you didn't get paid for loading house
No,
art.
you don't get paid for getting your materials, and it's what you actually get done.
And then other thing, what scrim were Hessian scrims and bandage scrim, which is now you can stick it on.
What's scrim?
Scrim's what you put over joints to stop it cracking.
Okay.
And it was just a nightmare. So being a plasterer back then was just no fun at all. And like I said, I think I lasted about a few months, and then they ran out of work again. So there weren't much work about. So I was still scrimping and scraping them. And then I started. So it took me up to about 19 then.
So we're talking 1985 now, 1980.
Yeah, so then out of desperation, though, because I was on dole as well. So I was on dole doing bits of work as well. Because you were allowed to then.
Were you?
Yeah, you could. You could.
I've just raised my eyebrows. Everybody, I'm sure everybody else has as well.
No, you could. I mean, they shut that loophole. So you could do work and declare it.
Okay.
And then
would they deduct
claim
it, would they?
dole as well, yeah. So you could sign on. I'm not
Okay.
saying that I did, but everybody did. I mean, it used to be funny. They used to drop me off at End Road to sign on.
And you'd be covered in plaster dust.
Oh, wow, yeah. There'd be vans pulling up and
what would question? Would it questions
No.
that you used to get? Have you been working? Have
Never.
you been actively seeking work,
yeah, you just said no.
Simon? No.
So then you just
No,
sign,
I'm just.
and then you just sign thing and and I know it were wrong, but you needed money, mate.
Okay.
So.
So now what we're on now, is it benefit fraud? I think we've got Sam's rap sheet's getting longer.
But out of desperation, government because there was just no work about. Government got a thing called community program.
Okay.
So that many people on dole, they wanted to get people back into doing stuff. So what they did is they used to get brickies, joiners, plasterers, labourers and stuff. And they had them working on churches and things like that. And if you did,
And they were funding it, were they?
yeah. So
Okay.
So you once you signed up, you did 2.5 days 1 week.
Yeah.
So you do Monday, Tuesday, half day Wednesday, and then you went home. And then following week you did back end at day Wednesday, half a day, and then you did Thursday, Friday.
So you did a week every 2 weeks.
But you got like 50 instead of getting. I think dole. What for me, I think it was 30 something pound, but for that you got 450, which were like it were a lot more. And because you were doing that, then I could work for 2 days after that,
Yeah.
and make like a full wage up. So I had to go for an interview for that as well, and I went for an interview to be a plasterer on there. So if I'd have got plasterer's job, you got full rate. Plaster's rate,
Yeah.
but I've not got enough experience, so they didn't have me on. But I got on as a labourer, so just went on there as a labourer, and it's a year's scheme that.
Yeah.
So went doing that.
And was it good money to be a labourer then, or?
Well, it was 54 quid a week, and then
So it's same.
and then I'm
scheme.
doing like Sudari's plastering or
Yeah.
doing bits and bobs for others. So I was learning it and learning bits and bobs. But again, that were another eye opener. It were brilliant. So all lads that were there, I kind of knew them all waste and strays that used to go in bus station, and I used to walk it there, and it were laid back. Used to cups of tea here and that. And there were some older tradesmen like Vic Harrison's father. Got talking to him, and it just was story after. We always sat down, and it'd just be story after story about sites and stuff. I just say enjoyed it. I mean, we did some work. I learnt to point there. We pointed a church at Wombwell, that one on Crossroads, across from Squires. But we were doing tongue and cut. So
Yep.
I learnt how to point on there. So you had to grind out and do that. So I did learn something, and so I did that for a year, and then that finished. And then just as that finished, there were an advert for a company called Guardian Building Services. So this is where I started doing more damp work, but a bit more specialised. So I went for an interview at Guardian Building Services, and a guy called Graham that owned it. And there used to be like where Lamp Room is now, which is in Barnsley. Straight across from that were like an old brewery. Like an old brewery thing, and they'd got their offices in there, and they did them up really smart and that. And I got job, but what they did is, you such as Timberwise, Rentokil, Peter Cox, Pro Tim. They
Big firms.
These are big companies.
Yeah.
They did alt prep, so they'd go in, drilling, injecting, and hacking off. And then we'd go and do replastering.
So these are big damp-proof,
Yeah.
well-established damp-proofing companies.
So they were contracting, going and doing work for them.
So they'd do the damp-proofing.
Yeah.
You'd go in and
use their
do
products
tidying
we'd go and do replastering, and you got your job sheet, and then sometimes we'd do hacking off as well, with hammer and chisel. So
old school.
No thing is knocking off with hammer and chisel, which. If anybody's ever done a full room with an hammer and chisel, trust me, it takes a long time, and that gets your muscles going. But so I started there, and I worked there for a couple of years, and I met Steve Aylwood, another one that's passed away a few years ago. I ended up kind of with him all the time. So me and Steve had been in this van. He used to look like a Mexican, so he'd have like this big gringo tash, and he was little, and he used to talk a bit like that.
Sombrero.
Yeah, but he used to smoke like a chimney. If you've got in van with him, it'd be like windows a bit. I used to open window me, and it'd be freezing on the morning. He'd be like, "Shut window, it's freezing."
So he'd be smoking.
Put your cigar out.
And were you a smoker?
No, I've never smoked. And but it just smoking it van all the time.
I seem to remember people just smoked in cars, didn't they? They didn't care one bit.
They just thought, well, if we can smoke in house and that, we can smoke anyway.
Cars used to stink, didn't they?
So I was him all the time, and I learned a bit off Steve as well. But that got me interested in damp stuff and that, so I got that back in my mind, that it's more specialist, it's more money.
So at this time, what were you thinking? Were you thinking anything beyond sort of job to job, or were it still just job to job, just eking it out?
Weekly wage,
weekly
wage to pay bills and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think just after that were it. So then just after that, I'd been in contact with Neil, who I used to work with at Cudworth, and he'd got in contact with this guy who were getting in pubs to plaster out. They were renovating pubs and plaster out. He needed somebody to work with him.
So I take it had been a brewery, would it, that were doing?
No, we were just I don't know what it was. He was like a dandy.
Okay, a dandy.
He was like a dandy.
What, did he have like a cane and
he used to wear like a
trilby
cravat? So he used to have he'd have a suit on and a cravat, glasses and that. He was tall and talk right posh. But he used to get like a load of work, and he'd just ring Neil up and say, "Can you come and plaster this out?" And he used to pay us day work. So Neil said to me, you're going to have to go self-employed. So this is when I went to see accountant and set me up as self-employed. So this is back end of summer 1988, I think it was. And so then I started...
and were it strictly self-employed then? You weren't going through as a limited...
No, it was self-employed.
Okay.
And we were... It worked a price out of 50 quid a day, which back then it was good. It was better than what most people were getting.
Yeah.
And we did quite a few pubs, So I'd left Guardian to go do that.
So would it price work this, or would it
No, it was just day work.
just day
which
rates?
were even better.
Yeah.
We did quite a few different projects, and then I did a few more jobs with Neil, and then again, work just seemed to dry up. So I ended up me and him sort of went to separate ways because he couldn't afford basically for tourners to pay for tourners.
Yeah.
So I think that's about 1989. So I think I was pottering about. Then I ended up going with Sid, working with Sid.
Just put your mic a bit closer.
Oh, sorry, mate.
There you go.
So then I started working with Sid. I'm just trying to think how I got with Sid. Sid had been working on sites, and Sid liked to drink, and he one night he'd slept funny, and he slept on his hand, like crushed up.
It took to do.
Paro, yeah. And when he sort of unfolded it, he'd got no feeling in his hand, and his hand were like paralysed because he'd trapped this nerve.
Okay.
So then we went to.
It's not good for a plasterer.
Well, yeah. So and he'd been working on sites, so he went to doctors, and doctor says it can take. He says it could take a couple of days to come round,
Really?
or it can take years. He might not have been able to use his hand. Anyway, I'm trying to think where I was working.
Which hand was it? His right or his left?
Do you know? I think it was his handboard hand. I think it was his left.
He could have just stuck it on. Could he have just masking taped it on?
But I'll tell you where I'd gone. I'd started working for a company called George Hurst and Sons, the oldest company in Yorkshire. They were really old, 100 and odd years old.
Property renovation
Yeah,
company.
so I'd got on with them on like a self-employed thing, and they'd got loads of work on, and we were doing fine. And lad who Sid had been working with couldn't carry him, and they'd been best mates for years. And
So Sid was still trying to work, were he?
yeah,
With
Good
his
way to
claw
work,
hand.
but he couldn't do out. So they had a big falling out, and I says to him, "Why didn't you come and work with me at George Hurst and Sons? Because it was just easy, just really easy work. It was just easy. So and I could have carried him. So I just says, I'll come and carry you."
So what were he doing? Were he just taking it off? You were throwing it on and he were taking it off, or were he just sat in
No,
van? Or...
well, he couldn't hold handboard, but he could trowel up.
Yeah.
So I'd put it on, and then he'd help me trowel up and stuff, and he could do other stuff like boarding and stuff. But he would getting a bit better and a bit better. But so he came with me, and we started working together for George and Sons, and we worked there for quite a while, and got up to about 1990, and there were a thing called World Cup on the
Famous Italia 90. So
Italia 90.
we're moving into Manchester era now, are we?
Yeah, and
Acid House.
I'm going to skip over this because I'm going to do a special on this. But basically, I decided on Friday. I dropped on some of my mates in town, and they were going to work. They were going to Arctic World Cup. They were, I think it was a Belgium game. England were playing Belgium.
Was that first game?
That was
No,
second.
it were Ireland first game.
Yeah,
Ireland,
it was second.
Belgium. Who were third? Egypt.
I can't remember, mate.
And quarterfinals were Egypt.
But they were going out. They'd already done a week, and then it was. I think it was last 16 or something. They're playing Belgium, so we're going out. So I decided we were going to. They all said they were going, so I just went and got a plane ticket and decided to go. So I went off to World Cup.
Where'd you fly from?
Told Sid I flew from East Midlands, but I told Sid to tell him at George and Sons that I'll see him in a couple of weeks.
Is that what it were? You just
yeah, not really good responsible plastering advice to anybody. Don't just turn up, and just say I'm going on holiday. Give your employer plenty of notice. So I don't think they were happy about that. Anyway, cut
Well,
along.
you were subcontracting though, yeah? It weren't as if you were...
Yeah, but they were nice people, and I felt, you know what I mean. I back then I just didn't think. I never thought. So I just went anyway, and then long story short, ended up getting deported from Italy.
Here we go.
And then no, I'll tell this story on a different one. So I ended up getting deported from Italy. I was absolutely gutted. Had another week off without working, and Sid rung me up and said, he'd got sacked and all. So
what had he done?
no, I think because he was my mate. I don't know. We'd
So you were vouching for
but
him.
I mean, houses that we'd been working on, they were awful. It was just a depressing job, and I think that had something to do with it as well. It was just an awful job.
So he
to
didn't
do.
really care.
They weren't really ready for us and stuff, and so then me and Sid just watched World Cup and that like together, and then one of my mates said, "Oh, we did a couple of jobs together. I were advertising in Independent, and then
The independent local paper.
yeah, and we did a couple of jobs together. And lowest point of that was we did a house at Grimey, and
That's Grimethorpe.
Yeah, Grimethorpe, and it was they'd converted this toilet at back downstairs, and she wanted it plastering out.
With an outside toilet.
Yeah and no. It were attached at back at house, but it was single brick, and they'd opened it up and turned it into a bathroom.
Yeah.
And they wanted it plastering out, so it was plaster were knocked off at wall, but then she wanted it Artex in. Bear in mind, we'd not done any Artex in.
Popular choice in the 80s.
We'd never done any Artex in either, so
I can't imagine it being.
This is what we thought. Can't be that hard. So Sid had got like a stipler, and then we went and bought some other stuff.
It was the same pattern every time, weren't it?
Yeah, but
Half moon.
But we were going to do it in. I thought, well, we'll just do it in finish. You know what I mean? So get finish wet and then just duck pattern it finish. So anyway,
were it ceiling or just ceiling? I take it.
It were just all walls.
Entire wall Artex.
Everything. She wanted everything Artex, but she wanted she wanted fan on ceiling. So we bought a comb to duck fan. That was it.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, we went and bought all stuff and that. Anyway, plastered it all brilliant and that, and then we come to duck fan. So he's put it on, put plaster on, and I'm trying to do this fan pattern. Well, I mean, it looked a right mess. So this was on Friday. And
I can remember that half moon effect.
And
I'm just Googling it now.
And bloke had got Sid's number. Anyway, Sid rung me up on Sunday night, and he says, he used to call me Bernie. He says, Bernie. He says, that bloke's just rung me up. And we'd seen him once. He was like a big bloke, blonde hair.
Yeah.
We worked at Grimy Pit. He got what they call it, mascara. We'd seen him, like when they've been down pit.
Oh yeah.
So he got that mascara look at all around his eyes. Get donkey jacket
coal dust up to girls.
And we've been laughing, saying, "Oh, he's a great big twat." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a great big bloke. And we were only like young. And he'd phoned him up and he'd said, "I'm happy about plastering. I'm not happy about Artex. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pay you for plastering. I'm not paying you for Artexing." So we were getting like effort money. Anyway, Sid had got like an old Fiesta, and I says we're gonna have to go up for money because we were skinned.
Yeah. Had you put? And I take it you're not taking any money for materials before, and you've just gone straight in.
So we're like laughing on way up and that, and I'm saying, "Oh God," I says, what if he gets hold of me? I says, what if he like braised me up or whatever? And like Sid's like going, I'll be staring at the way, like the eyes and that. Like anyway, he knew what time we were coming, and we pulled up in car, and I could see him. We were stood at fence, great bloke, like with mascara on and that blonde hair. And I got out of the car, and this is what Sid says that I said. As soon as I got out of the car, I went, all right.
Your voice had gone a couple of semitones higher.
And you're like, all right. And like just handed me money. And I says, all right, thanks very much. Like, something like that. Jump back in car.
Yeah.
My heart was just pounding out my chest. I just thought...
Dodged a bullet.
I thought he was going to braze, like. But, and that was lowest at low. And then we got a phone call off... so that day, we went into town. And it was day that all colleges had split up. So me and Sid just went bowls in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But bowls was shut at 3. So then we went to Co-op and at Peel
Supermarket.
Street.
Yeah.
Got some cans and we went just sat in Spuggy Park. That park
All right,
then
yeah, which is well known drinking spot for tramps.
And we were sat in there.
So what were
Just
it?
laughing.
What were we talking? Are we talking special brew? Were it or
I think we just got like
4 cans for
what's that
£3?
What's that in blue can?
Tenants super strength.
No, it weren't Tenants. It's
Tramp juice.
No, it was something in a blue can anyway. I can remember that, and we both like fell asleep, pissed like drunks, and I can just remember waking up and then he went off like. And
did you have an epiphany at that point?
Lowest at low. But
lowest. You hit your low point.
But then, and I think Sid had an hour there last. But then on the other weekend, I got a phone call off Si, one of the lads that we knocked about with, and he were working down in South End. We lived in South End, and he was working in Romford on a big project as a surveyor. And he said that there were some work down there if we wanted it for this company called Force One from Romford. Force One they called them.
Force One.
And bloke who not salesman, but got all work for him. He was one of them's brother out of Squeeze, and I can't think which.
Really?
It was Difford or Tilbrook. It might have been Tilbrook. It was his brother.
So proper Essex, I take it.
Yeah. So we drove down in Sid's car. We got some digs in pub called Moonraker. We called
Moonraker. Full on Essex experience then. Yeah.
And like we got this room. It was like a bed and breakfast above pub, and they gave us this room because we've got this work in on this site, and they'd got like a chef who made food for them in pub, and every time we used to go in, and we were gay, and he'd be like, "All right, lads." And it's like another one with like great wide eyes. And like me and Sid used to take him off all the time. And like, fancies thee. And he'd be like, fancies thee. Fancies thee. So
no doubt, just trying to be nice.
I think he fancied us, mate. I was a good-looking kid when I was younger, mate.
Okay.
So we used to go down on Sunday and eat, and then we'd have a few drinks and that. And then.
And did you enjoy it down there?
Oh, mate,
Essex were a bit of had a scene, didn't it, around then?
We didn't really go out. We were stopping in Leon Sea.
Okay.
Near where Si lived, which were nice, but job that the guys are doing. So we went to site on first day. And basically, with this massive like block of flats or whatever it was, not flats, offices, and all underneath were a massive car park, and they'd been let down by these plasterers. And this was probably hardest job that we ever did. So they were having underneath this car park fixed out with metal latting, expanded metal lat.
Okay. Lowering the ceiling.
No, because it was cast concrete.
Okay.
They fixed this metal latting to the ceiling, and it were getting rendered, and I came down and I looked, rendered. So rendering the ceiling. And I looked at it, and it was vast. It was massive. But me and Sid were never good with maths or whatever. We were crap with maths. And they told us they were going to give us so much a metre. We were going to give us so much a metre. So when we looked at it, we were like, we're totting it all up. And
you got pound signs in your eyes.
We were earning thousands a week.
Millionaires.
Because it had to be 3 coats, and we were going to give us this and this. And we just straight away just totted it up, and that we're going to be getting like about £1,000 a week each, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, the they dropped all this. They were all sand there. It were like we'd not seen sand, and we'd not seen this. Turns up for the first day, we'd not got a mixer, so they said we could use their mixer. It was a pile of grit sand, and it was grittiest grit sand you've ever known. There were hardly any sand in it.
Yeah.
They get it cement.
Had they got it off beach?
I think so. there were no waterproofer or plasticizer. There were none.
So you were trying to slap sand on the ceiling with?
No, we had to go and get. We were putting fair liquid in it.
Really?
So because that's like a plasticizer.
Plaster's cheat. Plaster's cheat in it. That's plaster's cheat book.
Yeah,
is
but
it?
you're not supposed to use it. But I mean, but they won't buy us any plasticizer. I couldn't believe it. So we were mixing this stuff up. Anyway, I were putting on, and Sid were scratching. So Sid were mixing it, and then I were putting it on, and then Sid were scratching it, and then when we got first coit all done, then we to put, but it were like right wavy, so we had to fill out loads, and he kept saying, yeah, any filling out bits you will get it gear extra, and it'd be this much, and like we were like, we're going to be earning loads, but we were working a week in advance, working a week in hand, so we'd not been paid.
So you didn't know what you got until
Anyway,
so these thousands of quid.
Sid's like rubbing up, like so he'd got to like rub up with a float, and then a sponge on top of that.
Had his T-Rex arm been fixed by now?
Yeah, so he were fit. I mean, we're good renderers. Like together, we are good. I mean, Sid's one at best that I know for sand and cement render and rubbing up, and we made a good job. But it was red hot weather.
Yeah,
and it just dried out right quick. Anyway,
so cracking.
We ended up arguing with with him, and I just says to Sid, I says, look, football season, we're just about to start.
Yeah.
I think I'm working away. We used to go to watch Barnsley.
Okay.
So I just says, well, we both kind of says, look, let's just leave.
Just dropped it.
Go back to Barnsley. Yeah.
Did you get paid?
Yeah, but we got.
Did you lose a week? Did you lose a week's wage?
We got about £400 for week or for it. It was just not what we expected.
So did you do? I think it was just 1 week. You did.
I'll tell you what it was. It was they paid us for that first week.
Yeah.
And we realised we weren't getting what we thought we were going to get. So we just says it just didn't worth it. We get more just back in town.
Doing a couple of days.
So we just says to Si, look, we're gonna leave. We're not doing it. Explain why. Just says they've messed us. They'd messed us about really. But then we come back to Barnes and started working, doing other stuff. But then the guy who was in from Squeeze's brother, he got in contact with me, asking me to give him a statement because they'd sacked him and all, and he was taking him to a tribunal. Yeah, so they messed him about.
So it weren't just all in. It were company. It weren't people.
I just says on your bike. He didn't give us any help.
So too cool for cats.
I just left him at the junction.
Did you?
So
terrible.
So Sid then we kind of went as separate ways, and Sid went working for his dad, who's got a building company. Why we didn't end up going working for them at first place?
It sounds like it'd be, if your dad's a building company and you're a plasterer, there might be a bit of business you might want to do together.
And he did cold wood work, which was what
you said it was bread and butter earlier, didn't you?
And they used to make a fortune.
Yeah.
And I can remember coming out of I'd just come out of our house, and I think I was just going across to my car, and Sid's dad's pickup pulled up. He must have seen me, and he pulled up, and he come over, and he says, hey, have you got much on? Are you doing all? And I'd not, and I says no. He says Mick, because there were Mills and Pearson, his partner wanted a plasterer because guy that did the plastering who were the.
So which were Mick?
Mick were Pearson. So
Sid were Mills.
Yeah, but then they got a silent partner who were a plasterer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his name, but they'd split up with him, so they'd split company up, and he weren't happy. This guy, but they'd gone the separate. But they worked together, but they'd gone the separate ways. So he says Mick wanted some work doing, so I went working for Mick, and this was like sort of best thing that ever happened to me because, I worked with Mick continuously for around about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Every day, every week, learnt a lot, doing all cold wood work and stuff. but that allowed me to get a mortgage and buy my first property.
So you got regular income
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
You could start doing statements, buy an house.
yeah, and it was brilliant. And and then sort of year after, the set Brody on, Lee Brody.
So how old were you at this point?
I'd have been about 24, 25.
24, and you've got your first house.
Yeah, so then it went this one in 94. So then,
So you'd had a couple of years since dark days at 90s. You'd
yeah,
got a couple of years under your belt now.
yeah.
We're moving forward.
I think one of the things that I missed out was I ended up being in 1991. That's what happened. So this in between that. So Sid went working for his dad, and then I went working for. I got a job. I saw an advert in Sheffield Star, and it was for a finishing foreman for plastering, for these flats that were being renovated for World Student Games.
Oh yeah, I
in
remember that.
Sheffield.
Yeah. So Don Valley Stadium.
Yeah, so they were renovating these flats. So I went for interview. I got on, and this was just before Christmas. Again, I think I'm haunted with Christmas.
It was
like.
Christmas, yeah.
So,
Christmas past, Christmas future.
So I think I got on in September, and I was still going. I'd started going to college doing my HNC, High National Certificate. So
plastering, were it? Plastering and finishing.
No, I'd done my advanced plastering years ago, so I'd done my 3 years at that. But this is I'd carried on going to do an HNC, BTEC Higher National Certificate in Building Management. You had to do 10 units. You could only do so many units a year.
Part time then.
So they allowed, one day. Well, it was 2 days a week, but it was one day and one night, a few nights. So it was like night school. But I'd got this job because I want this what idea to get out of plastering and become a surveyor, and I goes to this company, and I got on as this finishing foreman, which I thought that's a bit rung on ladder, because I'd done my City and Guilds foreman badges and stuff. Everything going fine and that, and basically I'd go up and I'd just see plasterers had done a good job, and to fill a few forms out and that, go have a sausage sandwich, and they'd got a canteen, and it was brilliant.
Easy street.
Oh, it was brilliant. And it was a company in London.
So you weren't getting any tools out, were you, doing this job? None at all?
No. I used to drive there, jumper on, tie on. Yeah, and it was what I'd probably been working to achieve to not be plastering.
Yeah, you got fed up with that.
Yeah, so then I'm doing this job anyway. Things weren't going right. Things just weren't. There was just something I couldn't put my finger on, and I kept, every time I went to college, I was a lecturer. Harold Horn, they called him. Brilliant lecturer. Loved listening to his stories and everything, and they kept getting put on stop, which I just thought, it's just a regular thing. So
what's that then? Put on stop.
So they couldn't buy any materials from builders.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And Harold just said, if the game put on stop, I should watch it. It's just because
there's no liquidity.
It means they can't pay the bills, or they're not paying the bills for some reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, well, they've got lovely cars and
it's big.
you know what I mean. And
big firm. And
anyway, again went off. It was Christmas. Went away for Christmas.
Usual Christmas.
Had
Christmas
a nice
curse.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Came back.
Letter.
Came back. Yeah, and guy who was foreman above me, general foreman for this company, gave me a load of letters. He says, start handing them out to to staff.
Nice.
I'm like, what? I had a read of it, and they'd gone bust.
Were yours in there as well? Were it? Did you say read yours last?
Yeah. So I'd got.
Don't read this until you've handed all the rest of them out. Were people chasing you down the street?
Thing is though, I'm getting letters out. I wasn't even getting paid.
Yeah, all right.
Because we've been let go.
Yeah.
So everybody.
So you were out a window anyway, yeah.
But we'd got to give these letters out.
And you were company man as well, so you were handing them out. And did you get any abuse?
No, because I think they kind of knew that. I think I'd been kind of.
So when did it dawn on you that your letter weren't going to be a good one?
It's more or less straight away.
Right.
Because basically, letter was telling you how to apply for if they owed you any money.
Yeah.
You know, it were all that kind of stuff. So went into office, and we were just taking stuff out of office. Like I got a mobile a mobile phone, but for a car.
A 1991 mobile. Oh, you had to get them fitted, didn't you? You had to get somebody to fit them. Yeah.
Right? And it was
So Sam's saying about a foot by a foot.
yeah. So it were in draw, and it was a mobile phone what they'd used in the cars.
And what car were you driving at the time?
It was like a van.
So it'd be worth more than
An
that,
Hyundai,
probably.
I think it was a Hyundai Pony, but I took it to him, and I just put it under my bed. It was no good for note. I don't even think it worked. And that's the only thing I got out of it. And they went into liquidation. I kept getting letters from liquidators and that way. So then this is when I got this job with Sid's dad. So just after that, and then obviously things moved on a bit, and I ended up getting my first property, which I'd got in my head. I'd always got in my head that I wanted to live in an old, Victorian house.
Victorian.
It had to have a cellar. It had to have an attic, and original features. And
I had a similar one, but it weren't Victorian. Mine were always 50s. I always wanted a 50s.
Is that what you wanted?
50s with a bay window, maybe a bit of mock Tudor around it, something like that. Cellar.
Did you get one though?
No.
But that's what I mean. So I in my head,
I still would like one now.
Yeah, but I weren't consciously looking for it.
Yeah.
But I'd got that picture in my head,
Yeah.
and then I just saw this house on Park Road up for sale, 30 grand. Went inside, and I just couldn't believe it. It had every original feature.
So it is So Park Road is a Victorian street with cellars. It's on an hill, isn't it?
But
it's
it
on an hill.
was an old woman that had lived in it.
Yeah.
She'd not done no with it, and it had every single original feature.
So you'd got fireplace.
It had 4 fireplaces.
4 fireplaces.
Marble.
Chimney breast still intact.
Cast iron. Alt tiles.
Yeah.
Alt tiles
tile
on
floor.
Front. Yeah. Alt tiles on front. It had alt cornice and everything.
Cornices.
What they call it, paper as you went in all the way. Just lovely.
What about staircases? Were they wooden spindled?
So I moved into.
So tell us, 30 grand at that time. Would that have been a cheap house, or would it have been an expensive house?
For it was about average.
So are we talking about 94 now? Are we?
Yeah, 94.
1994.
So what I used to do is religiously, ever since I can remember, I've always read property section. Property section used to be in Chronicle. Can you remember?
Yeah.
And it used to be a separate section, and I used to read I used to look at every house, and I had an idea of what how much houses were worth all the time, and what you could get for this and what you could get for that, and 30 grand were about right.
And so how many bedrooms?
It had 3. It had 3 bed. Hang on. 1, 2. It had 2 bedrooms. I'm just thinking now. It had 2 bedrooms. No, right. It had 2 bedrooms and an attic. So it had a proper stairs going up into attic.
Okay, yeah,
so
which were quite common.
Yeah, it was 3 bedrooms.
So it'd been a full staircase up to an attic room.
And then cellar. Well, you had a door that could walk out into the garden. So
so back garden were on a split level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was...
So front would have been higher than back.
Yeah. I decided to do it up a bit at a time of a... just I was going to end up moving in when it got like bathroom in.
Yeah.
And then I just did it up a bit at a time. And I knew I wanted to do it up. I wanted it to keep it in keeping with how it was. So all Victorian stuff. So idea was cast iron bath were going to get kept.
Yep.
All original fittings, which were eye flushing toilet, brass, everything were brass, and I just kept everything and did a bit. I did everything a room at a time, and it took me 5 years to do it, every bit. And last bit that I did to it was I turned attic into 2 bedrooms with like a walkway and split it into 2, so it ended up in a 4 bedroom. But when I first moved in, we had toilet going. I moved in with Lasso Scene at the time. We moved into top room. So that what first room I did.
Yeah.
And then we worked his way down. So attic what first room I did, and it ended up being just a lovely house. And when I sold it, house prices doubled. Luckily, just as time that I'm going to sell it, house prices doubled. So
when did you sell it? About 2001?
No, 2000.
2000.
Went up for sale. Came out in 2000. No, in 99. Came out in summer of 99. Went to live at my sister's. Put stuff in. Well, stored all my stuff at hers. I got 60 something thousand for it.
So you doubled your money on it.
Yeah, and then we're looking for another property, and found this place.
So let's talk about what we think it might be worth today.
That one up there.
Yeah.
I've seen it for sale. I saw it for sale a few years ago, and it was up for 170 odd, but house prices have just gone up again.
They have. So we'll be well over 200 now.
I'd say it's around about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Cellar. I never did cellar. That was the only thing I didn't do.
You've done work up there, haven't you, as well?
Yeah. But while I was doing that, I ended up finishing with Mick, and then getting a job for a company called ProTech in Leeds, and then I worked there for five years subcontracting. And
really? So you've had some big gaps in between. So we had quite a bit early on. There were a lot of bitting and batting, and then we've had some, some long termers now. Yeah.
So then I worked doing basically just it were all insurance work for Green Flag. So this company just if you had a water leak or whatever, or this, that, or other, we'd just go and do replastering, or
so they'd tell you what
damage.
To do.
Yeah.
So you get a job sheet.
So then Sid ended up working with me there. So we worked together there, and then in between we were doing full houses for his dad, and on the weekends and stuff. His dad moved house a few times, built brand new ones, and we plastered all them out.
So still self-employed.
Yeah, I've been self-employed since 1988.
But company you've got now is a company. It's not a self-employed. You're limited now.
I've got 4 limited companies now.
So when did we make jump from Simon Cooper to All Dry?
Well, I started so around about 2000. This is when so in late 90s we finished with ProTech. They went under, went bust.
Another one. Kiss of death.
Went bust.
Sam's kiss of death.
Owing me a few quid.
I'm worried here.
And then so they went under, and then I went for a short spell working down Bristol. Me and Sid went again with a couple of kids who I used to go to college with. Dave Coop and Julian, a kid called Julian, and Pricey. And
Pricey, not Pricey.
Pricey, yeah. So we ended up going to. Did I mention Pricey in Laston? I ended up fighting me in the pub.
No.
But yeah, so we had a scrap of it to do with birds and stuff and that, and but I ended up apologising. It was my fault. So I ended up apologising. Anyway, we ended up working together. I ended up rooming with him. He's a lovely kid. And he... So we were doing external render, new systems. They'd been doing it for years. And
okay.
They needed more lads, so we went doing that. And me and Sid just don't piss all the time. We were just boozing and just having a laugh. It was just... And then he ended up coming back home because he was married and got a kid.
You still single then?
I stayed down there for a bit longer, but then I just got fed up, and then when I came back, I'd got a kid working for us, Lee. He'd gone down to Bristol with us, and we ended up. We came back, and last I was seeing at the time, she'd got a mate in Manchester who wanted this. They were having some damp proofing done, and they wanted it plastering up. So I said, I can do it. Yeah, I'll go through. So I drove through to Manchester to this job, and there were a joiner there, and I seen this applicator on side. It's like a thing. This applicator. I says, what's that? And he says, this is what I use for damp proofing. This is what you put.
So it was joiner doing damp proofing this time.
And he says, this is what you do damp proofing with. And I'm like, really? And then he showed me this like sausage, this silver sausage thing that goes in. He says, this is damp proofing cream. He says, you bust it here, put this on. He says, and then you drill your hole and then you put it in and backfill it. And I just light bulb moment went off.
So what were you asking? Were you asking him? I take it you were asking him questions.
Yeah, I just says, and I was like, how come joiners doing it? Because it was that easy to do. And it were a new system that safeguarded Fetch Start using siloxane creams and basically it was just so easy to do. Whereas before it were high pressure systems.
Which you needed a machine, and it took a long time.
And if there were any cracks in brick, it went all over. And I was always put off by doing it because of that. And then I seen this and I thought, that's it. I'm gonna start damp proofing. I've worked for all these companies, and that's my calling. I need to find out more.
You got called by damp proofing.
Yeah, so I asked him for number at rep for my area. Spoke to him. He came and saw me, and he says, to become a registered user, you come on this course at our offices at Bradford.
Yep.
So I signed up straight away for that, and that's when all dry damp proofing were born. So straight away I just called it all dry damp proofing. Like
so there were no thinking about it, and it's still here.
It just come straight to me head, all dry. And that was partly to do with getting on first page at Yellow Pages.
So A,
yeah,
being A, yeah.
So and that's and ever since then I went from kind of strength to strength. So I started advertising as a damp proofer, bought alt stuff.
Did you know what you were doing? Were there a bit of error? You knew what you were doing.
So when I've been on course, I had an idea anyway, and then I went on first course. They showed you how to do it, where to drill, and that was it. So started doing it, and originally we were rendering up with sandy cement with waterproofer in, and I did that for years, and it's kind of bulletproof because it's waterproof when it's done. Only issue with it is if you've got a solid wall and thermal cold bridging, which I kind of started learning about as we got further and further forward. So that's how all dry damp proofing were born. And then it was just contracting. So started doing that, and then...
So you started advertising.
Yeah.
Were people getting in touch now purely for damp proofing then?
Yeah, so started advertising.
So bearing in mind when this happened, have you been busy since?
I've never stopped. So I've been flat out. I've never stopped. But I wanted to be best at what I was doing.
Okay, so you'd set yourself a target. You're going to be a damp proofer. Now you're going to be best damp proofer.
I want to be best. Like I wanted to be best plasterer.
And why did you want to be
that?
Why did you want to
top
be
1%? And then
why did you want to be best plasterer?
I don't know. It's
is it pride or is it money?
All plasterers with a certain breed. You see another plastering van and you look at it and you think, I'm better than him. I'm better than him. And you go into a room and you look at and you'll see plasterers running the fingers down people's walls and stuff and checking for scabs, looking at corners and stuff.
Yeah.
And plasterers judge everything because with quality control, you look at your walls and stuff like that.
It's quite easy to see a bad plastering job, isn't it? Maybe not so much when it's electrical work, or you've got to get under hood, haven't you, with electrical work, whereas plastering, it's evident.
Yeah, you see brickies, and brickies all kind of get on, and camaraderie and that. Plasterers, they don't, they're just like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're a bit like cats. They don't...
So there could be a reality show, yeah. Real plasterers of Barnsley, I reckon.
There'd be a lot of arguing.
Real Housewives of Cheshire or whatever.
But that just might have been me and Sid.
It might just be you, that. Everyone else might be fine, and they're like, well, there's something wrong with that all dry guys.
So I wanted to be best damp proofer, and that I could be.
How does one get recognition to be best damp proofer?
Well, originally I didn't know that you could. I didn't know about PCA, so I found out about PCA, which is Property Care Association. Which this is the main body what kind of I don't want to say governs it's a regular what's the word I'm looking for,
Regulatory
body that do exams and things like that. They do white papers from government and stuff like that. They do research and they collate everything.
So they're a knowledge base.
Yeah, and the so I found out about PCA and I found out that you could become a member, and if you became a member, you were like sort of elevated. You know what I mean?
So it's a prestige.
Yeah, but you have to go through a rigorous process to be in PCA. Your company's got to be a certain way. You've got to be organised. You've got
so to get this. What would you call it? How would you become accreditation? So you get accredited by PCA.
Yeah,
and you can't just get in.
No,
it's not an overnight process. It's not pay 50 quid and you're on our register.
But you can with like Witch and stuff like that. But no, to get on PCA, I didn't know. I phoned him up and I says, I want to become a member.
And can people be thrown off PCA?
Yep. Like big companies like Peter Cox, they got thrown off not long ago, for different reasons. But but I found out that the only way I could get into PCA is if there were somebody that worked for my company that had surveying qualifications. Of course, me being on a small company, we didn't have anybody. So what I had to do, I had to go and train to be a surveyor, to call me exams, so I could become. I became a provisional member.
Yeah.
And then I took their training. So by being a provisional member, I got courses discounted. So that was the idea. And then you've got 2 years from the day you become a provisional member to get somebody with them surveying qualifications. So I just went and studied and studied and studied. I've got some knowledge anyway, a lot of knowledge anyway, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I took to it like a duck to water, and went on courses, did my revision, took my exams, and failed. So
is that true?
Yeah, I failed. You take it in 3 parts.
Okay.
So I passed health and safety, and I passed the damp work, and I failed my identification, my wood identification.
Right.
So then I had to book it in again, pay for it again, and take it again. And then second time, I did me because you have to do full exam again.
Yeah. So it's not like you just pick up on bits that you failed on.
So then I come to do me what they call it, my ID, and basically there's 20 pieces of wood all around room, all different types of wood.
Yeah.
You've got to. Yeah, and then you get your question sheet, so you've got to ID what types of wood they are. You've got to. There's some that's got insect infestation,
right?
Holes. There's might be some dry rot. There's different ones. You've got to ID them all. And when I'd finished, I was last in room. You've got 20 minutes to go around and ID them, do anything. And I was last in room, and a lady come in, and she says to me, can you just finish up now? Just put your thing in. And I was like, I was umming and ahhing this last question. And anyway, so I wrote it down. Went back in, and I was like, proper pissed off. I was mad because I just thought I've failed. I've failed here. And I said to her at last, she still works at PCA. And I said to her, I've failed. And I says, can you book me in for next? Because I was adamant I was going to take it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it and
so
take it.
Bloody-minded, and you were just going to do it until you got...
Till I passed it. And I says to her, book me in again. I says, I know I've failed it. I says, book me in again. And she says, oh, don't be so hasty and all this. She says, this is date. I'll have a look and that. I'll have a word with him. Anyway, I'd got another exam. What I was doing, I think I was doing my waterproofing then. So I'd go waterproofing exam. Anyway, I sat down to do it upstairs, and before she kind of started exam, she says, well, which one was Simon? Anyway, I put my hand up, and she come over and she says, you've passed. So they'd had a look at my sheet really quickly, and
so she'd done it.
They'd had a quick look at my sheet, see whether I'd.
There were a brown envelope under she whether when you.
She knew I was anxious and stressed.
Yeah.
And I think she wanted to put my mind at rest for one for my next exam.
For your next exam.
The other one for like sort of because I kind of knew her a bit, but they checked it and they just saw how many answers I got right, and they just it's passed, and I was like, it was like passing my driving test. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So
that unlocked.
And then I did my waterproofing surveying exams, passed them, and then I just carried on doing courses after course after course, just extending my knowledge, keeping up to date with all products and stuff, and becoming a damp proofing surveyor. It gave me a lot of confidence. It was like when I passed my plastering exams, you feel elevated. You know what I mean? It's like it gives you a massive buzz of confidence. And
so when you look at average everyday plasterer now who's doing damp proofing, do you feel a bit like you're a bit sort of above them?
Not above them, but I know I've got more knowledge.
Yeah,
and this is why.
So are you more confident? Would you say if you were put side by side with everyday man plastering, and they wanted advice, and you knew you were up against them, you knew you'd be giving them best knowledge.
Yeah, I've elevated myself to a position where I've got a lot of knowledge. I know a lot of stuff, but me in PCA. There's people in PCA that's got companies, and they're like professors. What they don't know about damp proofing, it puts me to shame.
So are we going on 10,000 hour rule here? Are we?
No, it's not so much 10,000 hours. It's just they know more technical stuff. I come from I position myself as being because I'm from a trade background. A lot of these that's running these companies. They've not been on tools.
So you've got to be, you've got practical application, and then you've got theoretical application.
And I feel as though I can relate to people who's on my level, doing job, because I can look at them and go, listen, you're probably similar to me. You could take your exams in PCA. You could set your own company up. You could earn a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Just get into preservation side. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to champion going working in specialist industry like preservation, and this is why I do YouTube videos, to show people that it's not hard. We're transparent, and if you jump on our side, you can earn a lot of money. You can earn a lot of money. Work for these companies, get your knowledge, and this is why it'd be easy for plasterers. Plasterers can earn a lot of money damp proofing. Joiners, plumbers, it's just about organisation. But getting to, go to PCA, have a look at the courses, what they do, take a few courses, and get up for rung at ladder. That's what I'm trying to do and trying to tell everybody.
So this is takeaway from Damp Sam's life story.
Yeah, I mean this is where I've ended up. So now. Like I said, with podcast,
I think
videos.
I think we've a bit to go yet until we get to this, haven't we?
What's that?
We've jumped a bit, haven't we? Have we jumped about 15 years? About 2004, haven't we?
No, so I've kind of blended up to that, but it was 2000. So I set up All Dry Damp Proofing Limited. In 2010.
2010, all right. So 12 years.
And 11. So then I joined PCA in 2011 as a provisional member. Passed my exams in 2013. And then obviously in between, so we've been doing jobs here and there, waterproofing, basements, everything to do with preservation industry, really.
So let's talk about. So we're established in PCA now. Let's talk about your other side. So Damp Sam Celebrity. When did we start? When did we start on this? When did we start on our social media website? Because you've always been quite. I've known you for a few years. We must have known each other for. We must be 15 years minimum, I'd say.
Well, one of the things I just want to talk about first is when I did join PCA. If you just look over there on your on your left, there's an award there. It says 2015.
2015.
Yeah, and we
joint winner website of the year.
and I'm really proud of that because I've been doing some like networking at these different events and that, and it's really hard to win anything in PCA. I think it is because you've got this
big companies, big budgets, big marketing budgets. Yeah.
It's a bit easier now because they've split it big company and small and medium companies. But back then you were just all in the same pot, and we'd gone down and it was best practice dinner. I'd gone down with Mel, got all dressed up and everything,
suited and booted, monkey suit on.
Yeah. And it was first dinner I'd been to, and we put a sense forward for website at year, and we won it.
So let's go back a little bit. You've gone from, raggy lads at the beginning.
Yeah.
You've built up experience. You've got in with PCA. When did you realise that, power of marketing? Because I think you, as I say, we've known each other for 15 years now. And you always seem to be somebody who's been actively marketing the company. And I know you've said you've been working ever since, but I know people who own companies and they're not even, you'd struggle to find them in Yellow Pages, that, the non-entities. I know people who own big companies. So when did you realise, so you've won website at year in 2015.
Yeah. There's a few more awards.
There's a few more on there, yeah. So we've got, we've got, look, for them that's not here, we've got a wall full of awards here for various bits and pieces. Design and Innovation Business Award, Digital Creative Award, Contractor here. So there's plenty of awards on wall here.
So what?
So when did you realise that this was something that I have to be? This is another job, really.
Yeah.
This is another job to what you do. So marketing your company and getting recognition and being out there. It's just, you could spend all day doing that and do no work at all. So you've had to find that balance. And when did you realise that you needed to do this?
It were early doers because as a self-employed plasterer, you need to be getting work all the time. I was having to look at different ways of getting this work in. So back in early days, it was just so hard to get any work because I had to advertise in independent,
local newspaper,
which you had to pay per word. Per
word, yeah.
And it cost a fortune. So we could only have like a small advert in a box, and you had every plasterer in Barnsley advertising.
It were easy, weren't it? You did your advert once, and you just paid them weekly, didn't you?
Yeah, but then you got to go out and everybody were going to the same job,
and there were no reviews.
Mate.
So
and then you got Yellow Pages, what cost a fortune.
Yeah.
So I did advertise it in there, but I just felt all the time. I felt I'm not above anybody else. Everybody's not the same.
My
page
marketing's
here.
Exactly the same as everybody else. My advertising's
everybody's
the same as everyone else.
Yeah. Some might have bigger boxes than others. Some might have lines and stuff.
Okay.
But that was it basically. So when social media started,
so we're talking about 2009, 2010.
Yeah. So 2010, I saw an advert for a marketing networking event for just tradespeople. I'm not going to say what they called it because I kind of fell out with it, but they don't do it anymore. He's got a different company, but I got asked to leave. I'm not going to go into details, but it was when my dad died, and well, basically they were letting anybody join, and I did. Being a networking thing, I used a few contractors that were there, and they were shit, and.
So there were no standards. It were volume over quality.
He just wanted money. And when I saw, we had a...
So it were a paid network.
Yeah, and we had a WhatsApp group, and everybody were bigging these different contractors up who'd been rubbish.
Yeah.
And I think I was just skitting and stuff. It was after my dad had died, so I didn't know I'd got, what is it when some grief. I didn't know I was suffering from grief, but talking to Mel now, she says, and Holmesy said they knew that I was acting a bit different and a bit weird, but I just didn't like that they were all bigging him up, and these different contractors. I'm not going to say his name or others' names, but they're bigging him up and saying how good they were and that. Like he came and one of them came and did a job for me. He'd not even got a chuffing still saw, and he was supposed to be like laying flags and stuff.
And it was top man.
Well, it was saying it was a build and it got this and it got that. And I'm not going into details, but anyway, so I went to this networking thing, and it was a massive eye opener for me. And I owe him a lot when we started company up. I owe him a lot because he got me into there were a business coaching grant, and he came and did a bit of business coaching with me. And I knew I had to have a presence on internet, and I'd paid this guy from Manchester, and it were like I'd got one page with all the details on, and I had to pay him every time to alter it. And to be fair, he got me on first page of Google all the time, but it were like 400 quid a quarter or something, and it was the only thing I knew. But then
so you're blind to all this stuff.
Yeah. So when I did this business coaching, he's got a techie guy who I still use now, Mark Radford, and he introduced me to Mark, and he says, I can get you this website done for whatever. So I thought, I'm investing in it. He did me a website, which were that, and when I saw it, I just thought, this is fantastic. He did me a brilliant website. He had everything on it. It were up to date. And I just thought I can win something here.
So it was more than so previously being on a level you felt like you'd been you were top of that now.
So then we decided to give it I didn't know about funnels back then and stuff like that, but I just decided to put 2 ebooks on thing, just explaining about damp and one about waterproofing. So that kind of fetched people into the website. So we're getting inquiries coming into the website and then via email to me, and I thought we don't need to advertise if we market this properly.
Not paid.
Now he did a social media course, the guy that were running it, and he said to us all, he says, I want you all to do a video, and he showed us this video that he'd got because he had a loft company, and it was like 3 years old, this video, but it was still number one for this Chesterfield area, and he says, I put that on 3 years ago and I'm still number one. So this is power thingy, and he tells us about Google being second biggest search engine and all that.
Biggest.
So I did, so I did a video, did a couple of videos, put them on, set a YouTube channel up, put them on there, and then forgot about them. And then I've been networking for a year with him, and then I went on another social media thing, and he asked us to do these videos again. So I revisited them and saw that I'd got like a few, on one of them, which was damp proofing thing, which was
no, it's me.
All right. Which what damp proofing.
My watch is playing. I'm tapping my watch. I'm trying to get him to move on.
So on damp proofing video, I just did a video one Saturday morning in a shop I was renovating up Old Mill Lane, and I drilled and injected, and that had most views, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's got a bit of traction, that one. So I'd just seen this new system by Safeguard, which is called Fast Express Damp System, which is basically salt neutralizer, drill and inject on bottom, stick a plasterboard to the wall. Simple as all, clean, simple, easy. And I thought, this is. Straight away it rung a bell in my head, and I thought, this is quickest, easiest, most profitable system that's on market, and it still is. And I thought, well, I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to set camera up and see how it goes. So I did this video that's still on website now. It's, if you log on to our YouTube channel, just search for Damp Sam. First video that you come up for, this is video that I did, and it started to take off. And I can remember talking to you.
We had a word about it, didn't we, about 4 years ago? I think it was when
at time, I was saying to you, I says, it's getting loads of views, and I was saying, but I don't know why. I don't know why it were getting loads of views. And it had a spike, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
And I still don't, to this day, I still don't know, who helped me out or whatever.
Well, my theory was that it was shared somewhere, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It had been shared, and then probably YouTube algorithm got hold of it.
But now it's got so it's up to 500,000 views now on this one video.
So this were filmed on a mobile phone.
Yeah, mobile phone on a tripod.
Start on a tripod.
Yeah, in a old terraced house.
And all that you were doing, and you gave this knowledge away for free.
Yeah, And then, so I've put that on and sought traction on it. And then when I got to a certain number, I were able to monetize channel.
Yep.
So then I started making videos a bit more regular. I'm out of my comfort zone, as you can see from first videos, but up to date now, I've done 500, over 500 videos, and I'm starting to do more and more and more. Because when I monetized it, I could see that there's a digital income coming in, but also there's a trickle down income. So I watched Gary V, and it were him that said to
Gary V.
Gary
Vaynerchuk. For them that's not knowledgeable, Sam.
Gary Vaynerchuk is he's a rich guy in America that started off with a wine library, and he worked in his dad's store, but he started on YouTube in early days doing a wine program. He got a lot of traction from it, but he's got a lot of foresight. He knows different things to go into, and I've listened to his podcasts for God knows how long, for 6 or 7 years now.
So I think his main takeaway is if you're passionate about it, get it online.
But that's it. But I got a load of tips off him. So basically, answer every question that anybody puts on.
Which is something that you do to this day, isn't it? You'll always try and answer a question. If you get quite a lot of feedback, don't you?
I do, and I try to answer absolutely everybody.
And not all of it positive. It's got to be said.
Yeah, it don't matter, and that's what another thing he said. Just answer trolls and stuff, or people. You don't know what mood they're in. You don't know what's happening in their life. But all I can do is just answer them with my knowledge and stuff. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm just trying to get what's in my head onto film, onto podcasts, so generations of my family can listen to me when I'm dead and gone. And that's another thing. So my kids can look at me in future on here if they want to. Grandkids can have a look and see what I've been doing.
A digital legacy.
But also I can see there's a digital income coming. So there's a kind of a shift. So everything I've learned that I've paid thousands and thousands and thousands for, because these courses that I've gone on, I've paid loads of money out to do them.
Yep.
Well, now we our technology's advancing. There's ways for me to monetize that and put courses on now what people can access and buy. So I'm trying to get a course sorted out where somebody can buy it, sit down, and they can watch it at a computer how to fit this system, in easy steps, and out where to source everything. So this is next thing that I'm trying to get sorted out at this minute as well.
So what we're doing, so your aim is to let people see what's under hood, that knowledge that were quite hard to come by in previous years.
Yeah,
you just want to share it.
I just want to share it and show people what to do. I mean, if it's not a question of getting secrets out, because that knowledge is already there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collate it and put it in one place.
I think we've alluded to this before, haven't we? I think you say it quite often.
Yeah.
That there's enough work out there.
There is.
For you not to worry about.
27 million houses in England that need maintaining. When I was younger, I thought it were really insular. There seemed to be a lot of plasterers all trying to fighting for one job, but that were in my head.
Yeah.
Now, I just see all these houses that need maintaining, different things and different jobs and stuff, and there ain't enough people to maintain these houses. There's enough work for all of us.
And what do you feel about knowledge? Is there a lot of knowledge? Do you think there's a lot of knowledge gaps?
There is, but like I said, PCA there to fill a lot of this. In our industry, what's happening now is you've got schools. Now, as long as kids can read and write when they come out of schools, I think that's adequate, unless they're going to be a doctor, lawyer, someone that needs a degree where they've got to go to university. So them are going to have to try a bit harder. While you're at school, you're taught by a lot of unmotivated, underpaid people, and it's not their fault. And if they're unmotivated and underpaid, the lessons aren't going to be interesting. they have a trophy for Teacher of the Year, and Teacher of the Year is always an interesting teacher. All the kids like him because he makes that class interesting. Now it's hard for a teacher because they're only human beings. They've got different things going off in their lives, and I know they're professional, but a class full of screaming kids, you can't be on top all the time. You know what I mean? You're going to have ups and downs. So if these teachers are not motivated, then kids are not going to be motivated, and kids are going to get bored, and kids get labelled problem child. So as long as you can read and write when you come out of school, once you leave school, things are digitally now. You can pay to be taught by the best person in the world at whatever you want, because they'll be doing a course somewhere. I was talking to a lady on Friday, and this is what I said to her. She's got a digital a branding and marketing thing and mind and body, and this is what I said to her, and she says, I've just done that. She says, I booked a course with best person in world for marketing, and she did his course. You can pay, and don't forget, you know, when you pay for a course, it's going to sink in more than if it's for free. So that's my thoughts on education. Make sure you can read and write when you come out of school, because that's when your learning is going to start. So you just get school's there just to teach it basics, unless you want to be a lawyer.
A lawyer, just a lawyer.
Or that requires a degree.
Academic.
An academic, that's it. That requires a degree. In 3 years' time, there's going to be a massive shortage in plasterers and trades. So price of that is going to go through the roof, because there's not enough kids going into that industry.
So if anybody's listening now who's got kids, 3 years, it's time to strike, is it?
Yeah. So I think we've kind of covered everything now.
I think we have, yeah. I was just going to say, I think we've covered life and times of Damp Sam. So that's from
probably about 1 o'clock in the morning now.
Yeah. So years, what were it? When were you born? What?
1967.
1967 to 2022.
2022
and beyond.
Yeah. So that's just we've touched on bits and bobs in my life. There's loads and loads of different stories, and this is why it's took a couple of parts, and there's still loads of other things that I can talk about, and I will do in other episodes. But kind of for now, we're going to have to wrap this one up. I hope you've enjoyed it, and
it's been a mammoth.
and I hope it's been interesting for you.
We had a word. We had a word earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
Sam was sort of talking about his favourite subject, and if you've been listening to this for however many hours, I think you might know by now. Thanks for bearing with us.
It's easy to talk on your favourite subject, which is probably me. So, if anybody wants to do an interview with me, I'm more than welcome. We can do it on Zoom or whatever, or you can come here or whatever. But I'm up for doing talks.
And let's just recap on where you can find Damp Sam's social medias.
I've got that responder, and so
we have.
Yeah, so that'll just go on end. So we'll just close it up here.
Let's close it up. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, and it's good night from me and good night from Gav.
See you later.
Ta-da.